Hi, I'm Hillary Thompson from Cutting Edge Plants. I'm a member of the American Hydrangea Society, and this is the second video in a three-part series. This video is covering 4 propagation questions. Questions were emailed in and they're being answered in lieu of our April meeting because we cannot meet in person at this time. The first question about propagation is about the aeroponic cloning device. I'll be truthful, I don't know anything about that device, and another member, Dorta, emailed me a link to pictures of it. I recognize it as a device I've seen in the hydroponics section of some garden centers. I noticed that the price is rather expensive and that it propagates about 12 to 20 plants at once. I'm sure it works great, and now I am curious about trying it, and one day I hope I will get that chance. Especially on some harder to root plants, but you can get going with hydrangeas for around $20. I haven't perfectly priced that out, but I know it's significantly cheaper. So the next question is going to be a lot longer of an answer. The question is best practices and how they vary across different varieties. By varieties, I think that means species. Hydrangeas are very easy to propagate when they're dormant in winter. And dormant is, just a review, that means they have no leaves on them, they're not actively growing. So basically you're taking bare sticks and you're sticking them in soil and you're propagating them. Hydrangeas are extremely easy this way. There are several other trees and shrubs that are just as easy. Most are a lot more difficult. Hydrangeas are a great beginner way to start propagating, and you'll probably catch the bug. It's extremely satisfying. I say catch the bug, but really it might become an addiction. You'll be looking at plants and going, ooh, I wonder if I can try that. Anyway, this next section will delve into propagation, hands-on. Started by explaining all hydrangeas works like a dream to winter propagate them in February. So I'm going to start there with some of the stuff I already did. It was actually on March 3rd. I always label with a date. Probably can't see it, but it says 3/3. So March 3rd. And this is one of those 32 flats you can order on the internet. They're not expensive, and I mix my own rooting mix. It's different than our potting mix. It consists of 3 different equal parts in thirds. So we start with soil cube compost, 1/3. Adds nutrients and it helps retain some water. We also use pine bark mini nuggets and then horticultural perlite. It's that white fluffy stuff. Hope you can see that. So mix that in 1/3 parts of each. So this I stuck in March. I'm gonna sacrifice one right now. Whoa! I don't have to sacrifice it. Roots everywhere. You can see them. That's pretty amazing. I stuck these and I forgot about them, and when it turned a little bit warm in March, I would go by and make sure they were watered. Check on them every day. Give them a splash of water, it's all they need. We've got a plant here, we've got success. So you can see that, I'm going to explain what a node is. So it's the space between the point where leaves come out. This was a 3-node cutting. So one of the nodes I buried in the mix. So that's where the roots started forming. And then the other 2 I had up top. You'll see a lot about the importance of burying 2 nodes. I don't do that here. I don't like that to hit the bottom. That means I have roots that just kind of radiate out there. So I like to get them going higher up in the pot so I have more roots. Also, you can see the difference here. Oh, this is Hydrangea macrophylla. 2 nodes, this is just 1 node up top. And so it technically takes, if you bury 1 node and have 1 node up top, it takes longer to get a bigger plant. So this starts you off faster. The more nodes up above the pot, the faster you get a bigger plant. So that's Hydrangea macrophylla. I would have done the same thing with serrata, with oak leaf, with paniculata, and arborescens. I did actually do it with arborescens. I used a different pot. It's called a root maker pot. See that? It makes some really nice roots. We're switching our pot production, our 1 gallon pot, to those as well. I don't think hydrangea roots really are the best. They can be a little weak. They're just not as vigorous and tough. Say of crepe myrtle or something that just strong, thicker roots penetrate into that clay soil. So I'm gonna pull, ooh, look at this. This is exciting too. So we've got roots on this arborescens as well, stuck in March. And same thing, I had buried 1 node. I had less cutting material, so I did only 1 node up top here, like as I got to the end. You can see another one here is huge. That just happened to have very, very long internodes, is the space between 2 nodes. So I've got a variety of sizes here, and that's okay. So these are called root maker pots. You can order flat online. They are sold retail. They're made in Alabama. I think it's really cool. Support a local southeastern company and use their propagation cells. And this mix can be found on the Soul Cube website, the recipe, and it is Brie Arthur, the Plant Lady's recipe. And I'll tell you a little bit more about products I use. The Dip and Grow. This is the liquid rooting concentrate. It's available online as well. It can be expensive and you'll have a lifetime supply. I recommend going in with a few people and splitting the cost, divvying it up so y'all can have your own separate stash, and just transfer it into a little, a little mason. This isn't mason, this is recycled diced pimentos. But you can use the measuring cup. It really makes it a no-brainer. You fill to the concentrate line, and then depending on the dilution strength, you fill it up, and then I just fill it in there and do a series, couple weeks worth of propagation just from when I mix in here. It really lasts a long time. I'm going to explain a little bit about the cuttings here. So summer cuttings. All hydrangeas can be propagated in the summer as well. And some are easier than others. Again, that's the macrophyllas, serratas are easier in the, not easier in the summer, but if you're going to propagate in the summer, they're the easiest during that time frame. The others you'll get to root, but maybe a little less success rate. So this is a cutting, multiple nodes, and so while I take my cuttings, I'm also pruning. So I prune right above the a node so that there's not a bunch of ugly stem, but it does give me ugly stem left behind on the plant that's just going to die and look brown and look kind of funny. So it does give me an extra step in propagation though. So I cut that off just below those 2 leaves. I'm going to just strip those 2 leaves. We've got a lot of foliage here. So we've got a lot of nodes. Oh, another thing I do is I'm kind of pruning while I propagate as well. I'm going to cut off the terminal. It's gone. So that when this starts growing, it branches out in 2 rather than keep going 1 up. So you're getting a little fatter plant. Think long term when you prune. You think down the line. So this has 3 nodes, kind of a lot. There's a lot of leaves. That next layer goes too. And now I have 4 leaves, and you don't have to do this, but I do it most of the time just to give room and airflow in the tray, but I kind of bunch them all up. I just reduced that leaf size a little bit. There they go. So I've got this stem and I've got this node right here. And I sharpen my pruners a lot. I like a nice sharp blade. I don't want to put any extra stress on my wrist. So I've got a sharp blade here. I just slightly, don't go deep into the cambium. You just want to do it a nice little bit. I don't even know if I'll be able to make that be seen very well, sorry. If it's a woodier plant, just think about scraping off that top layer of little bit of thin bark, so you're not into that cambium, you're just a little bit into the stem, you're seeing a little bit of green. That allows some uptake of the nutrients and water. And then I dip for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Usually have a whole handful at once for efficiency. I usually cut a whole handful at once as well for efficiency. And then I've got my pot, and I forgot one element of this. So what you do instead of, so when you're sticking a plant, you've just put this rooting compound on it. You don't want to waste it. So I usually take a pencil, pretend this is a pencil, or a bamboo stake, and I pre-punch my holes in the pot. So just boom, 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 on down the line in a 32 flat. I've punched all my holes with a pencil, and then I take my plant that's been dipped in hormone. I just put it in there, and I don't press a lot. I just kind of pinch it in there quickly. You don't have to agonize over it. Just pinch it in there so it stays upright. I've stuck my first plant. And then I water it. And also we have a propagation bench with mist that comes on every few seconds. There's these cool domes that you can fit over your flat. And that works really well for hydrangeas, especially macrophyllus and serratas. Honestly, I haven't tried it with the other types, but macrophyllus and serratas are that easy. You just use a humidity dome, and when you see them flushing, you can take the dome off and just make sure they're watered regularly. And another thing I do, so this is April 20-something that I'm filming this, and so as you saw, I showed you the roots. I started fertilizing. So there are roots on the plant, and that's another reason why we have the compost in there, is to provide some nutrients. As those roots are forming, the plant is metabolizing. So I sometimes maybe do a little bit of fish emulsion, something organic. I have a granular, you can see it better in this, it's a organic granular balanced NPK fertilizer with micronutrients. I just dust it on top. I'm not really trying to get a lot of growth at this point. I'm just keeping them healthy. I want to keep a nice green color on there, and not have them fail because of lack of nutrition as well. So those, I believe, covers the best practices. You'll learn a lot though. Just keep trying, and one day you'll be doing this video. Some of the other questions are, it's an interesting one. I grow native azaleas from seed and wondered if growing hydrangeas from seed collected from recent cultivars would yield reasonably good hydrangeas. Understandably, they likely won't be as good as the parents. They'll be different from the parents, especially if you have many other hydrangeas in your garden. They're cross-pollinating, and that's when you get the genetic diversity. And I want to add that mop heads are grown because of all those showy, sterile florets. You will have to dig deeply. You will find fertile florets in there. They're the tiny little flowers. The lace caps will be easier for you to find the little fertile florets. They're in the center. And the little ovaries, when they're what's the word I'm looking for? It's not when they're mature, but when they're ready, when the seeds are ready, the opening kind of opens up. And so it's that little water vessel-like look. And that's in late summer. So be looking for them in late summer. The showy sepals will have turned upside down. It's really interesting. So they're right side up. They go like this. They start coloring beautifully antiquing on that upside down side, but that means your flowers have been pollinated. That's a good sign. They do it on both the mop heads and the lace caps. So look for that, and then put a little flagging tape on it to remind you to go back to that plant, to harvest them in the fall. You sow them, they're like dust, so you sow them on the top. And you could even use, your little flats again, like this. We use something a little bit larger and wider, flatter, but we do it in the straight compost as well, straight soil cubed, and nothing on top, just surface sow. Don't sow them too thickly, we've done that. And water them every day, that's the key. And we did that, harvest them in the fall, and then plant them indoors under lights about February, March as well. And they'll grow very rapidly, and you'll get a lot of germination. And then you'll have to wait, probably not that growing season, you will get flowers. You might plant them up you could just take another flat like this, tease apart all those little seedlings, plant them up, and observe. So yeah, sometimes the short plants like this one here is propagated this winter. It's got a flower bud on the top. So you're growing them from seed, though. You'll probably get flowers the first year, and just look for something unique and different that you like. That's how people find these neat hydrangeas, not just from sports, but from seed collecting. That's where the diversity is. So have fun with that. A final question is, how many weeks on average does it take from propagation to reach a decent size? I have two flats, two different show and tell items I'm going to show you. Oh, and sorry about all this background. This is the junkie area. This is our production area. It is a mess. One day I would love to have this cleaned up. We took last June on the hydrangea tour some cuttings from Jennifer Petrus's garden with permission. She let us propagate some hydrangeas we'd been wanting to grow, and they're ready now to be potted up into 1 gallons. So here's a picture now of them. So these were propagated a little shy of a year ago, June last year, and it is April, so 10 months ago. Then the next show and tell is a 3-gallon container of Nico Blue. It was potted up, here's a picture, 2.5 years ago. It was propagated probably the year before that. So you're looking at 3 to 3.5 years to a 3-gallon. Now, other people do grow them faster than we do. We water consistently, we fertilize consistently, but we're not in a rush to try and get a lot of growth on them. We just don't spend that kind of money on the fertilizer. We don't want to be tossing it around like that. And what we're doing works for us. So you can look for a 3-gallon within 3 to 3.5 years. Faster if you water it a lot. Misspoke. Fertilize it a lot. You can get a lot of extra growth in there. I have seen top growth at the expense of root growth. So just make sure you're getting the root growth too, not just putting so much nitrogen on them that the roots aren't growing as well as they could, because that's the life of the plant. That's what supports the plant. So that was the end of the propagation series. Thank you.